Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the WWC podcast, Wrestling with Connor. Today, I am going to be talking about the AEW Dynamite episode that happened last night. I only caught a little bit of what happened on NXT, so we'll go over a little bit of that, a little bit of Raw, a little bit of Smackdown as well. And then I've got a topic that was going to be a little bit longer, but I cut it in half almost. Once again, cheated on my topic. I didn't want it to be too long by describing everything that happens with this, but without teasing it anymore, the topic is going to be about wrestlers that have passed away directly due to wrestling or in the wrestling ring. Those two things are different to me. Directly due to wrestling would be, say, someone got an injury in the wrestling ring and then afterwards, maybe years afterwards, they had passed on. Then there are guys that have died directly after their match. They didn't get injured during the match or anything, just their heart or something like that just failed on them. So that is going to be our topic. It's a little bit morbid, but it's interesting at the least. A lot of people still think that wrestling is just a joke and it's just play fighting. Nobody gets hurt. Everybody's just acting. It's not that way. Wrestling can be very dangerous. People probably get injured in a wrestling ring every day. And that sounds crazy, but it honestly wouldn't surprise me. So that's part of the reason why I'm excited to do this topic. Wrestling can be dangerous in more ways than one, and more ways than you can even think of. So, without further ado, let's get right into this episode. Thank you once again for joining me. This is Connor with the Wrestling with Connor podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said, we're going to be going over the AEW Dynamite episode that happened last night, a little bit of NXT, a little bit of Raw and Smackdown. I don't want to get super in-depth in reviewing those shows, really ever. I watch Raw Talk and Smacking, Talking Smack? Raw Talk and Talking Smack to update myself on Raw and Smackdown. I don't watch Raw and Smackdown as much as I should. I usually can't. So Talking Smack and Raw Talk are super cool to me, and it's like a shoot promo show. Speaking of shoot promo, we had one on Raw Talk. We had Peyton Royce come on Raw Talk and talk about how it's a lot of talk. It's a lot of the word talk happening already. She came on here to let everybody know she's done waiting around for her opportunity. She said she understands that Asuka being injured sucks, and that leaves a big void that she thinks she can fill. So she cut a nice little shoot promo. It was probably about 3 minutes of her just kind of saying, hey, look at me. I think I'm better than 90. She said, I think I'm better than 98% of these women in this, of the women in this division. And I forget what she said about the other 2%, but it was a really good way to not make it sound like she thinks the other 2% are stronger than her, but the other 2% are just champions or something or other. I watched that. That was pretty good. I am liking what they do on Raw Talk and Talking Smack with it not being scripted. It is a breath of fresh air. Sometimes it's a little goofy because, like, New Day came on first, and they were kind of messing with, what was his name? Something Patrick. They called him KPZ. R-Truth and New Day were calling this guy KP and KPZ, but he's the new, I believe, the new co-host or host of Talking or Raw Talk. I apologize. There's so much talk happening. Yeah, new host. So they were kind of not hazing him, but having fun with him. And that was a big fun segment. And then came the Peyton Royce segment. And I think I might have stopped watching after that. I cannot remember what was on Raw Talk after that. But the Peyton Royce thing stood out to me big time. I liked New Day. But yeah, Raw Talk was, I think, better than it was last week. And yeah, I enjoyed it. It was pretty good. Like I said, I don't want to go too in-depth in these shows because I want to keep this a little bit shorter rather than rambling on about the review. I'll keep a ramble for once a month for a pay-per-view review. So then we've got, we've got Talking Smack, which had Caleb Braxton and Paul Heyman, which I love them. Their dynamic is great. Caleb Braxton always giving it to Paul Heyman giving it right back to her. Paul Heyman is a god on the mic. Nobody can deny that. He knows exactly what to say at the exact times, and those two are great on the show. Their first guest was Bayley. That was good. Bayley, that was another kind of goofy segment. Bayley doing her ding dong hello thing. That was funny. But once again, it's just goofy. They're having fun. It's nice to see them have fun rather than have to not be serious all the time, because they are in character, but not scripted. It's nice to see it coming from a natural place rather than a scripted place. So they had Bayley on there first, and then next came Apollo Crews, which this was my favorite part of Talking Smack. Apollo Crews, it has the new gimmick now. He is heel, finally. I have been wanting to see Apollo Crews turn heel for a while. I thought he might join the Hurt Business, and then that didn't happen, and it ended up being Cedric Alexander. I thought maybe Cedric Alexander might recruit Apollo Crews, but that didn't happen. Instead, they gave Apollo Crews his own thing. He's got two bodyguards dressed in camouflage coming out behind him. I believe he has the Nigerian colors on now. He has a little bit of a Nigerian accent going. He says this is the real Apollo Crews, and he has found himself, and this is actually how he is. I love this. I think him coming out in this very confident and, what's the word? That's the best word I can really think of, is just how confident he is in himself now, as opposed to whenever he would get talked to by the Hurt Business or somebody else that was a heel kind of trying to pull him to that side. He would always sit there and kind of think about it. I remember a few times watching him where he would look down and think, man, maybe I could do this. He finally did it. I love the accent, the confidence, everything that comes with it. Paul Heyman loves it as well. He was talking to him like he was worshiping him on the show. It was great. Then we had Dominic Mysterio and Rey Mysterio come on to address Otis and Chad Gable, who have been sort of turning heel. Otis and Gable turned on I believe, turned on, or something happened where they went after Dominic and Ray. And I'm liking this. Otis always has that, once again, goofy. I'm talking about WWE being goofy, but this isn't how it always is, people. WWE is a good show, I promise. Otis, though, with his yeah, all that shit, that's funny, but it gets kind of old after a while. I'm glad that they switched it up. I'm hoping that he doesn't keep doing it, because I noticed he did sort of keep doing it. But if he does it in more of a serious style, I think that it would be good, and it wouldn't work against his heelish character at all too much. I think that's about it for Raw and SmackDown. Now, we had NXT as well last night, which I'll go over that first before I go over AEW. We had NXT, and we had a few matches that were pretty good. If not good, I was looking forward to them. We had Io Shirai versus Toni Storm for the NXT title. We had... Let me check my notes here. I'm sorry. I apologize. We had Io Shirai versus Toni Storm for the title. Oh, this was... I knew there was something I was forgetting. The big deal that happened last night. We are having a 2-night NXT takeover on WrestleMania weekend. 2 nights. Not WrestleMania weekend. I believe it's the weekend before WrestleMania. But 2 nights for an NXT pay-per-view. This is going to be big. Or an NXT takeover, I should say. Not a pay-per-view. This is going to be huge. I'm looking forward to this. Probably more than WrestleMania now. WrestleMania is kind of just a copy and paste of last year. They're having it at Raymond James Stadium. They're doing the same logo. The pirate ship thing. The matches aren't copy and paste, but I think Kevin Owens said that he's going to be jumping off the ship, which is what he planned on doing last year. So a lot of stuff they're doing for this year's WrestleMania that they wanted to do last year, but due to COVID, it wasn't going to happen. Also, we had the very first NXT Women's Tag Team Champions crowned last night. Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez were given the very first NXT Women's Tag Team Championships. They won the Women's Dusty Rhodes Classic, went on to face Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. They did lose that match, but Regal awarded them with the NXT Tag Team titles, the first women's NXT Tag Team titles. But they did have to defend those titles on this NXT episode. So, their opponents were, drum roll please, Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon. If you listened to a past episode of mine when I talked about the, Vengeance Day pay-per-view, I wanted Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart to win the Dusty Rhodes Classic. They are 2 of my favorite wrestlers in NXT. Just general. Man, woman, even in just WWE. It doesn't matter. I was hype that I saw that they got the opportunity to face Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai for the titles on this very night that they were awarded them. Not only did they get the opportunity, they won. They beat Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai for the first NXT Women's Tag Team Championship. So now they are the second, not the first, but I use the word first because I guess this is the first night of the titles being around. But now, on night 1 of the titles being introduced, we've got the first 2 champions. I'm not upset with it due to who won. I hope Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon go on to defend their titles more than just one time. I hope that it's not just a one-time thing where they get demolished by Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez just for them to become the 2-time champions. That's a big thing that WWE likes to do nowadays. The first 2-time champion is always something that you want to have under your belt now, I guess. But sorry, everybody, for that awkward ending there, or the awkward stoppage. The recording just stopped on me unexpectedly, but I believe I was finishing up talking about the NXT Women's Tag Team title match where Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon defeated Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez to become the second ever NXT Women's Tag Team Champions. First night of the championships being introduced, and we've already got 2, so a little interesting tidbit there. We had Io Shirai defeat Toni Storm, of course. Already mentioned that. We had Pete Dunne defeat Jake Atlas via submission. Like I just said, Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon defeated Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez to win the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships. Xia Li defeated Kaden Carter via DQ. We had Legado del Fantasma, who is Raul Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde. I think that's how you say his name. They defeated the Grizzly Young Veterans, Zach Gibson and James Drake. And then the main event, Finn Balor versus Adam Cole. Finn Balor defeated Adam Cole to retain the NXT Championship with distraction from the returning Kyle O'Reilly. Afterwards, Kyle O'Reilly goes ahead and super kicks Adam Cole and gives him a few punches. And then after those two get through with their little debacle, which I believe this match could have been a pay-per-view caliber match. They could have saved it, but I think that they are building towards something with Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. But Finn Balor and Karrion Kross end up face-to-face at the end of this NXT episode. And Finn Balor puts his finger on Karrion Kross's head, almost signaling that you're next. I've got you in my sights, and I am hype. I'm very hype for this match. I've been waiting to see Karrion Kross make his return. He fought the leader of Legado del Fantasma, and I'm ready to see him really just let loose. That's what I'm ready to see, and he needs that NXT Championship back, so I'm ready to watch him do that. So, we had a little bit of Raw talk. We had a little bit of Talking Smack. We talked a little bit about NXT. A little more about NXT than we did Raw and SmackDown. But next, I'm going to be going over AEW Dynamite. Once again, just the key points. I don't want to go through a review of each one of these weekly shows because you guys can watch them on TV. Or if you have WWE Network, you can watch them on there. Or BR Live puts on the Dynamite episodes, I think, a couple weeks after they're up. So there are ways to watch these weekly shows. I don't want to bore you guys by rambling on and on about the matches and how they went. I want to save the rambling for the pay-per-view reviews because you guys can't watch those. And there are some people that want to know what happened. So I want to save it for that. Without further ado, I'm going to tell you about a little thing called Anchor. And then we're going to be going over AEW Dynamite. And after that, the topic of the day. All right, everyone. Let's get right into Dynamite here. We had the show starting off, I believe, I'm trying to pull up my notes quick. I think it was Rey Fenix versus Matt Jackson. Is that correct? Yes, it is. It is correct. So we had Ray Phoenix versus Mac Jackson. I thought this was a great way to start off the show. It was high endurance, high speed, exactly what you would think the match would be. Just a good way to start off the show. I think this was a good build to their title match, which of course Ray Phoenix and Pac won the Casino Tag Team Royale to face the AEW World Tag Team Champions Matt Jackson and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks. Yeah, good match, good preview to the match that they are going to have as a team. Yeah, good way to start off the show. Then we had Cody Rhodes returning to the ring, which surprised the hell out of me. Cody Rhodes fought Seth Gargis, and this was a somewhat of a squash match here. I really thought Cody Rhodes was going to be sent off for a while after Revolution because of how he was really like just taken out in the ladder match in a style that would write someone off the show for a while, and they kind of focused on that for a bit too. I'd like to see Cody Rhodes turn heel and start something with some other guys in the business, but it seems that might have already been started, which I will be going over later on, well, just here in a couple minutes. Yeah, Cody Rhodes with a quick victory over Seth Gargis. And yeah, that was a good match. Not too bad. We also saw All Ego Ethan Page make his Dynamite debut against Lee Johnson. Now, this was more of a... This aided towards the angle with QT Marshall more than it helped Ethan Page. And this was his debut match on Dynamite. We had Ethan Page, who... I like his wrestling style. He wrestles more of a slow, methodical style. He's more of a wrestler. He uses that all ego, the confidence to his advantage. He works the crowd a lot. But he put down Lee Johnson in this match pretty good. And QT Marshall coming out with Lee Johnson as Nightmare Faction or Nightmare Family Faction members. QT Marshall does not help Lee Johnson one time during this match. It looks like Lee Johnson hurts his knee at one point. Really, really, really bad. Which at first I thought was a shoot. I thought he actually fucked his knee up. And then he was just working to QT, and QT did not care one bit. We had Ethan Page go over Lee Johnson here after quote-unquote injuring him, and then he beat him down a little bit more after the bell. QT Marshall just stands there and watches it happen as Dustin Rhodes comes out to save Lee Johnson. Dustin Rhodes, also the fellow Nightmare Family member. And when Dustin Rhodes comes out, he sees QT Marshall just walking away. So I think there's going to be something here with QT and Dustin Rhodes soon. I like this little tease that we're getting here. QT doesn't get enough of the respect he deserves, and I like that he has broken out into this sort of heelish character. So we've got a interview with Sting. Sting comes out to talk about his match with Darby Allin against Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. Talks about how Darby he takes risks, and he is the epitome of risk taking, basically. He's talking up Darby a lot. He's putting him over. And then all of a sudden we have Lance Archer and Jake Roberts come out to interrupt and claim that they're taking their own time now because they aren't given any time. Lance Archer talks about how he is going to take the time he is deserving of, or else he's going to be taking something else. And then he looks at Sting, making it very obvious that he'll be messing Sting up if he's not given his opportunities. Tony Schiavone goes to start interviewing Sting again as Lance Archer leaves, and Sting says, "Thanks for the interview, Tony. I'll talk to you later." And he goes to the back. I think there might be a little bit of something here next week with Sting and Lance Archer. That would be cool to see Sting and Jake Roberts interact again. It's been 30 years probably, so that would be very exciting. All right, and next we had Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley they made fun of Kenny Omega. They said, "Oh, it makes sense. Impact paid for the bomb." Eddie Kingston said that when he went and covered his friend, he had flashbacks to this anxiety that he had. This must be him trying to explain why he just was laying lifeless over Jon Moxley. I would love to see Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston team up, or just fight. Like, these two have so much history together. If you don't know about it, look it up on YouTube, look it up on Google. They have a lot of history together, and it's good history that is worth the watch. To follow up with that, I'm just going to go right into Tony Schiavone has another interview with none other than the debuting Christian Cage, his debut on Dynamite. He made his official AEW debut at Revolution. He wants to speak to Christian Cage, but before he gets a chance to introduce Christian, here comes Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega has, which remind me of what I was talking about last episode with Maki Ito and the Idols, which I'm sure this is connected. He has some very beautiful ladies come out with brooms, signifying the cleaner Kenny Omega. He used to come out with a broom all the time. And then Kenny appears in the heel entrance. He comes out. He says that the bombs were meant to be this way. Sorry for the pause. It's just insane to me how they try to cover this up. They did a good job. It's not bad, but so not only does Kenny Omega come out, he comes out with Don Callis, of course, and the Good Brothers. Don Callis is the one talking. He said that this is not the death match that they had designed, because they didn't want to give the people what they wanted. They wanted to take away everything that the people want, and they want them to know how it feels, blah, blah, blah. Just them. This was them trying to cover up what happened, the debacle that happened Sunday. So then here comes Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston comes out, and he comes out to fight immediately. You know this is going to be a fight. He before he even starts talking, he counts 1, 2, 3, 4. One of me. He's like, fuck it. He walks in the ring, and then Don Callis says a few things to him about, don't forget I was the one that gave you your job at Impact. I also fired you, and you know the reason why I fired you, because as soon as you get close to the chip, as soon as you get close to getting what you deserve, you screw it up in some way. And then Kenny Omega gets in his face, kind of bites at him a little bit, poking the bear a bit. And he says, hit me. Hit me. This is going to be your only chance to hit me. So he does. And then they go at it. They start going at it. We get Jon Moxley coming out. So it's the Good Brothers, And Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston in a brawl, inside, outside the ring. And we get the countdown. We get the entrance. And we get Christian. Christian comes out. Christian points at Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega extends his hand to Christian Cage to say, hey, I'm not here to cause any problems with you. You're awesome, blah, blah, blah. Christian Cage denies it. Kenny Omega goes to attack Christian, and Christian hits him. Or he doesn't hit him. He actually got close. He got close to hitting him with the Unprettier until Don Callis grabbed Kenny Omega's leg, leaving the AEW title sitting in the ring with Christian Cage. This was great, great foreshadowing. I was super excited when I saw this. Christian grabbed the belt. He held it. Everyone knew what time it is. We are going to be getting a not Jon Moxley. We're going to be getting a Christian Cage versus Kenny Omega match for that AEW title soon. There's no reason why they would do that, and we wouldn't. So that was a great episode of Dynamite, in my opinion. They did a good job covering up the dud of an explosion, but they're going to have to keep doing something if we're going to forget about it and say, okay, we can forgive you for that. They're going to have to really do some good stuff to make us do that. So before I get into the main topic of the day, I need to stand up and walk around real quick, maybe get a fresh air, and then we're going to be talking about 5 wrestlers, actually 7, 1 honorable mention, and 1 pick is 2 wrestlers in 1. We're going to be talking about the topic of the day, which is wrestlers who have passed away due to or as a direct result of wrestling. Yeah, stay with me here. All right, everybody, while we are taking a bit of a break here, I just want to thank everybody for listening, everybody for interacting on Twitter or Instagram or any way that you are interacting with me or the podcast. I appreciate it so much. Don't forget to send your DMs in to Monarchathias, MONNORCATHIAS on Twitter and Instagram. I will be making an email soon to also aid with that. If anyone wants to send me an email with a topic or question, please do that as well. Also, big deal happening soon. We are going to be coming out with shirts, Wrestling with Connor shirts, t-shirts, and I think I'm going to be ordering about 40. So if you need one, let me know ASAP. I've got several people that said they want to buy more than one. So make sure you are letting me know if you would like a shirt. They are going to be $15 to $20 a piece. I need to make my decision soon, of course. But once again, thank you for listening. Thank you for taking this little break with me. And I will be right back. All right, let's get right into this topic here. I want to say rest in peace to all of these wrestlers. I don't want to make it seem like I'm going through these very quickly, but I don't want to bore you too much with little detailed topics that might make me go off into something else. First, we have the second version of Tiger Mask. Mitsuharu Misawa. Mitsuharu Misawa. He died in the wrestling ring in 2009. He is one of the great wrestlers. He is a 3-time Wrestler of the Year. He has 24, which is the most out of any wrestler, 24 5-star ratings, a 6-star rating, and he is a part of one of the greatest matches of all time in wrestling, against Kawada. And if you ever get a chance to go watch that, I would definitely watch that. But the match that he was in was a tag team match, and this is later on in his career. He won the Wrestler of the Year 3 times in the mid-90s. This match was June 13th, 2009. He was in a tag team match, and he ended up taking a back suplex, which is a very normal move. Every wrestler's probably taken or given a back suplex. Well, this goes to show you how simple a move can be for it to go wrong without you even knowing. Misawa took the back suplex, and he never moved again. I believe his first and second cervical vertebrae were separated, leaving him unable to move. I believe he was unable to breathe. It may have killed him right away. There was a lot of people in the ring attempting to revive him, and then he was taken to Hiroshima University, where he was pronounced dead. He was 46 years old, and like I said, I don't want to go through these very quickly, but there's not much more to say. This is the first on the list and the first example of how easy a move can be in wrestling and how quickly it can go wrong. Misawa is a legend. Misawa is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, and he trusted his opponent, and his opponent trusted him, and things just went wrong, and that's just how it goes in wrestling sometimes. Unfortunately, many of the legends have been lost due to untimely circumstances and things like this. So, moving on to number 4, which is kind of a double. This one I find very interesting. It's got a bit of comedy behind it due to how the fans treated it and the time. We have Alberto Torres, which is the first out of the two. Both of these men that I am going to mention fought or wrestled Ox Baker right before they died. Ox Baker in no way had anything to do with their death. The fans definitely thought so because of how heelish he was and how much they hated him. And it was also 1971. June of 1971, a lot of people still thought wrestling was real. Back then, there were some real brutal fans out there to send death threats and things of the sort. So, without getting too much into that, we have Alberto Torres, who wrestled Ox Baker, and during the match, Ox Baker hit him with his patented heart punch, which from this point on became a deadly move. The fans thought that Ox Baker was a murderer. He hit Alberto Torres with the heart punch, but some point during the match, Alberto Torres suffered a ruptured appendix, which is deadly if left untreated for a short time. It's something that can really mess you up real fast. But Ox Baker won the match, and they went backstage, and Alberto Torres died. He died from the ruptured appendix that he suffered during the match. But the fans did not know that, nor did they want to believe that, because they thought Ox Baker killed this man. He hit him with a heart punch and killed him. That's what they all thought. They called Ox Baker a murderer. And not only that, he wouldn't deny it. Not that he was calling himself a murderer, but he said, I'm no man to mess with, that type of thing. And then the very next year, August 1st, 1972, Ray Gunkel. Ox Baker wrestling Ray Gunkel in a match where Ray actually won. Now, Ox Baker may have had more to do with this than meets the eye, but it was in no way intentional. There's no way he intentionally murdered anyone or killed anyone. This is just wrestling. But Ox Baker was wrestling Ray Gunkel, and apparently Ray Gunkel had a blood clot, which caused by a move performed by Ox Baker broke off into a hematoma, which led to a heart attack. Like I said, Ox Baker never actually killed anyone. The fans definitely thought otherwise. It's a different time in pro wrestling. The fans were absolutely crazy. They would refer to him as a murderer and a killer from this point on. And in a weird and surprising way, Ox Baker became bigger than ever after this. He was a massive heel, massively popular, and in a way, Ox Baker killing two men made him a bigger wrestler than he ever would have been, which is pretty wild to think about. But rest in peace to Ray Gunkel and Alberto Torres. They will forever be remembered in the wrestling world as they were key contributors to Ox Baker's persona. He would not have been who he is today if, and it sounds so weird to say this, but he would have not been the heel he was if those two men wouldn't have died, which is wild and weird to think about. That was number 4. Next, we've got a wrestler that I am very, very fond of. I've been watching this wrestler in FMW and ECW ever since I was little. I always find something new. Hayabusa. Hayabusa is a legendary wrestler from Japan. He was the flagship star of FMW from I think 95 to 2001, which was when he ended his career. Hayabusa had a match on October 22nd of 2001. He had just came back as his Hayabusa persona. He had gone to... He'd been using a different gimmick. They just called him H at the time. But he had just recently came back in the last year or so as Hayabusa. He was having a match, which he slipped off of the middle rope while trying to do a springboard moonsault. He slipped and landed directly on top of his head. It's a horrible, horrible injury. And he cracked 2 of his vertebrae, leaving him paralyzed for the rest of his life. He required surgery. This obviously ended his wrestling career. As I mentioned before, he was like the heart and soul of FMW, because this injury killed FMW. The company would slowly fade away after he got injured. Now, Hayabusa did not pass away until 2015. Hayabusa had made a career in singing and being a musician. He had made albums for FMW in its return, which he was a part of. I believe he was an executive producer of FMW when it returned in the late 2000s. And they were going to be bringing back FMW, but the untimely death of Hayabusa happened in March 3rd of 2016, not 2015. I apologize. My notes are all scattered here. But he was 47. He died of a cerebral hemorrhage. This was a result of the injury that he had received in 2001. So he was lucky enough to live another 16 years after he was paralyzed. He made another career. He was about to get back into wrestling, but sadly, we lost one of the greats. There's a great match that I recommend. Hayabusa and... what is his name? I forget what his name is, and I'm going to have to look it up real quick. It's RVD and Sabu versus Hayabusa, and is it Shinzaki? I think that's the name of it. This shows you how good I am at taking notes, is it not? It is Shinzaki. Yes, I know my shit. I do know my shit. RVD and Sabu versus Shinzaki. It is at Heatwave 98. I recommend going to watch this match. It's a good tag team title match. It is the FMW versus ECW match. They were promoting FMW at the time. ECW had just done a stint in the promotion. So I definitely recommend going to watch that match. Great wrestler, Hayabusa, and great person as well. Now we are getting into the main portion here. These are the two that I know the most about. I didn't need to take too many notes on this. One of them I didn't need to take any notes on. Number 2 is the legendary, the great Bruiser Brody. I remember my granddad showing me Bruiser Brody stuff when I was very, very little. He loved Bruiser Brody. Bruiser Brody is very important to wrestling and big men. He is by far one of the best big men of all time. He made it okay to be crazy in the ring and act like an animal, but also know what you're doing. He knew how to wrestle, and he showed it. Now, not all people liked that. Not all people liked the style of wrestling that Bruiser Brody brought to the ring. This is all controversy and conspiracy, but it's pretty easy to say what happened here. Now, unlike these other wrestlers, Bruiser Brody died as a direct result from wrestling, but not in the same way that these other wrestlers have. Bruiser Brody was a big man, a intimidating man at that, but he was also very stiff in the ring. And then what I mean by stiff, he was hard hitting. He didn't pull punches. He wanted to make it look real, and he did just that. Well, Bruiser Brody wrestled a lot in Puerto Rico, and one night in Puerto Rico, he's wrestling for Jose Gonzalez, who is the promoter for the company he was wrestling for at the time. And Brody, who was scheduled to have a match with Dan Spivey, who is also another wrestling legend. Brody was asked by Jose Gonzalez, who, like I said, was the booker, or not the owner. I think I might have said the owner. He's the booker. He's the booker for the Puerto Rico promotion at the time. And he asks Brody to come into the showers. just to talk. Well, apparently Jose Gonzalez did not just want to talk. He ended up stabbing Bruiser Brody in the stomach. And this is one of the worst in wrestling history as far as deaths because of the background behind it and the viciousness. It is presumed that Jose Gonzalez stabbed Bruiser Brody. Bad enough to the point where Bruiser Brody had to hold his stomach from having having his insides fall out damn near because of how bad it was. This is in the shower, so nobody saw it, but no one also heard it. There was a lot of blind eyes being cast here. To this day, a lot of people don't like talking about this. I believe, lie. A lot of people lie about this interaction that happened. I think Tony Atlas is one of the only honest and believable people here. He said, and I believe this is a quote, he said that he heard 2 screams and there's no way the whole locker room didn't hear them, but he's the only one that got up. He went and he saw Brody holding his stomach, and he saw Jose Gonzalez there holding a knife. So if that's not proof right there, I don't know what is. This is still unsolved to this day. I believe Gonzalez, if he was charged for anything, I believe he was acquitted due to not enough substantial evidence, or whatever the phrasing is that they use. But Gonzalez killed Bruiser Brody, and he got away with it. And a lot of people got away with covering it up as well, I believe. This is going to always go down as the most infamous and brutal murders in professional wrestling. There are some that have happened, but this one I had to include, not only because it's Bruiser Brody, but because it is also it had to do with wrestling. I believe Jose Gonzalez did not like the way Bruiser Brody wrestled. He was afraid that he would outshine him in his own promotion because of the popularity that he had, and I think that he had to put that into his own hands. There's also a quote that I think I read today that Gonzalez had said to someone before that he didn't like the way Brody wrestled him, and that he was going to kill him someday. So, very cold, very callous, and he got away with it. Rest in peace to Bruiser Brody, and he is an inspiration to not only all wrestlers, but all big men that step into the squared circle to this day. There is a wrestler in AEW, and I think his name is Nick Camarado. He reminds me of Bruiser Brody in so many ways. It is absolutely crazy. Josephus, who we unfortunately just saw pass away, he played Bruiser Brody in all the Dark Side of the Ring clips. And he also played... or not played, he used a Bruiser Brody gimmick. He was, I think, King Brody or something like that. But he is very, very much missed as well. If there's anything else that you would like to know about this or the next number 1, by the way, watch their Dark Side of the Ring episodes. The Bruiser Brody Dark Side of the Ring episode is very, very good. and I highly recommend it. So, we have made it to number 1. We are at number 1. And if you already don't know who it is, or you haven't guessed who it is, you probably don't know wrestling. And I'm about to teach you something. This is... how do you describe this? This is the most touchy, the most controversial, the most conspiratorized, if that's even a word. You could call this a murder. You could call this a accident. I think it's an accident, but I also think that there were not enough precautions taken beforehand in order to prevent the accident. Number 1 is none other than the Rocket, the Blue Blazer, or the Nugget, however you remember him, but this is Owen Hart. Owen Hart died May 23rd, 1999 at the Over the Edge pay-per-view. He was beginning his Blue Blazer gimmick again, which was something that he had worked on a little bit earlier in his career. But this was more of a gimmicky thing. It was more of a goofy type than it was serious, and Owen was just having fun. Owen's known to be one of the most fun, the biggest ribber. Everybody loved Owen in the locker room back in the day. There's not one bad story that you could look up or find about Owen. He's just having fun, doing the Blue Blazer gimmick, going back and forth between Blue Blazer and Owen. You never see him in the same room at once, that type of thing. But sort of how Shawn Michaels entered, or Sting in WCW, Shawn Michaels entered on the zip line for WrestleMania 12, I believe it was, or 13. And this was the same type of idea for Owen Hart, or the Blue Blazer. Well, the carabiner, or the clip that they use for the zip line, apparently was it was not a reinforced type metal or something, because when he went, this is live, by the way, it's live with 15,000 people in the arena. JR and King sitting ringside. Jeff Jarrett sitting backstage waiting to come out. Everyone's watching. And during I believe it was an interview, he went to zip line down and the clip snapped or bent off, and he fell from the rafters of the arena he was in all the way to the mat. This one is really important to me. As a kid, renting VHSs and DVDs and pirating pay-per-views, I loved Owen Hart. Even as a bad guy, I loved Owen Hart. I thought he was just great. He was hilarious. He didn't have to be serious all the time to still be taken seriously, if that makes sense. Everything that he did with the Nation, Hart Foundation, anything he was a part of, he did it to the most he could possibly do. And this was one of those instances with Blue Blazer. And like I said, the clip broke. He fell from the rafters all the way to the ring. And he died in the middle of the ring. Now, with the controversy and conspiracy side of this, many say that Vince didn't take enough precautions. And everyone knows Vince is not going to ask you to do anything that he won't do himself. He, to this day, he'll be seen doing a spot to show the superstar that if I can do it, you can do it. Well, apparently he didn't take the precaution that he should have for this. And this is apparently. I'm not saying he did or didn't. But Martha Hart, who is Owen Hart's widow, she took Vince to court, and she ended up winning. She now has full rights to Owen Hart. Anything that is Owen Hart, she owns. WWE is not allowed to make any figures with Owen Hart. They are not allowed to induct Owen Hart into the Hall of Fame. And that is unless Martha Hart gives the okay, which I doubt will happen. The whole family really hopes that she lets go on that. And I do as well. I would like to see Owen get inducted into the Hall of Fame, but I also understand that she doesn't feel like he needs to be in the Hall of Fame of a company that didn't take his safety to the utmost. And I understand that. So I can't be upset if Owen Hart never gets into the Hall of Fame. He already is in the Wrestling Hall of Fame, the real Wrestling Hall of Fame. So that's about it from that. If you need to know anything else, or you want to know anything else about Owen Hart and this tragedy that happened, go watch the Dark Side of the Ring episodes. I can't tell you how much I love Dark Side of the Ring. All of the episodes. They aren't all sad, by the way. They are very educational for wrestling fans and everyone alike. There's a Macho Man Miss Elizabeth episode. They have a 2-part episode on Chris Benoit. And they have an episode on Dino Bravo, Gino Hernandez. And they're about to release the 2nd season and announce the episodes for the 3rd season. So if you are a wrestling fan at all, I highly recommend watching Dark Side of the Ring. It is super good. And if you can't watch it on Vice, sometimes you can find it on Hulu or YouTube. They might not be up on YouTube for very long, but you can sometimes find them on YouTube there. I apologize if anybody wasn't ready for this episode. I didn't want to dwell too hard on each one of my picks here, so I wasn't getting anybody too sad, but I thought this would be a good topic to go over, and it was recommended by a listener. Shout out to you. I am looking forward to hear what else you guys want me to talk about. I want to hear your questions. I want to have a sheet of questions to answer one of these days, and I think it'll happen. So let's get them sent to me. I want to answer them to the best of my ability. I want to do my research before I answer them and show you that this is the podcast that you want to hear when it comes to wrestling. So I am going to bid you adieu and give you a little bit of an outro here. So let's go ahead and cue the music. Thank you once again for listening. I cannot say how appreciative I am for every last one of you, for the interaction, the messages, the suggestions, everything you guys have. I am so happy about it and cannot thank you enough. Don't forget, we have merch coming out soon. I have Twitter and Instagram at Monarchathias, MONNORCHATHIAS, and I forgot to mention this. We have an official Twitter page now. It is the WWC podcast page. The @name is We Are the WWC, WEARETHEWWC. I can't wait to see you guys there. Come follow me, retweet, like, send me your questions and topics. Once again, I am not going to stop asking or telling you to do it. Just do it. Thank you for joining me. I am your host, Connor, with the Wrestling with Connor podcast. And I shall talk to you next time.